Welcome back to another episode. What we're going to do today, it's July 24th. College football season is right on the corner. Before we know it, we have Michigan kicking off against New Mexico, 7:30 Saturday night. So what we're going to do today is really just talk through some of the other QBs that are ranked as high as Bryce the last couple years and what some of their stats have looked like. Just trying to get an idea of what we have expectation wise, what we may see from them, whether they're going to be bring him along slowly or he might come out the box just kind of like ready to rock and roll, given that he was in um, spring ball or winter camp and spring ball and everything, got a lot of reps that a lot of freshman QBs don't typically get in that situation. So, yeah, go ahead and share the screen here and just kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at, what we be working with here. Okay. So yeah, I think couple QBs that come to mind just within recent years. I think start to see a lot more of these QBs coming in ready to play, just with how the game is just advanced and just become more and more. Yeah, you see a lot of kids, eighth, ninth grade starting. I mean, I think Bryce, you said Eli started as a freshman on varsity, started all 4 years. When he was in high school, which kind of tells the story as to why he was was the best player in the country. But a couple of examples of just some guys and what their stats look like that started total seasons as of recent. So we got one guy on the left here from Big Ten country, Dylan Raiola. Remember him being he had committed to Georgia, and I think he almost for a second committed to Ohio State, and then they were able to get him to go to Nebraska. I think his dad ended up playing there, which really was kind of like the deciding factor to have that happen overall. But you can see his first season, 13 games. 2,800 yards passing, 67% completion percentage. I think it's pretty impressive for a freshman. Um, 13 touchdowns, 11 picks, team 7-6 record. So I feel like probably don't really, obviously don't want to see the turnovers that high, but I think this is a pretty decent indicator of what we can maybe expect from Bryce just with touchdowns and even like the yardage. Given that I believe that Raiola is not really a big runner, I think Bryce will probably have maybe a little less yards, maybe a little more rushing yards. That ratio might be a little bit different, but I think this is kind of just another good example of what we might see from him as a freshman. Another guy, DJ Lagway. I don't think he's a big runner himself as well or either, but you can see, through 12 games, Florida weren't great, but they did come on late, beating LSU, if I'm not mistaken. Then they also beat Ole Miss to end the season, kind of finish the season the way we did, where they're just really kind of struggling and sputtering, and were able to finish pretty strong. But Lagway, number three player nationally, number one rated QB in the 2024 class, and he was able to, go for throw for 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. And once again, team record being 8-5. So those are some good comparisons. But next page here, I'll kind of show. I think even though he is coming from or played for the arch rival, I do think this is probably the best comparison we'll end up seeing, or what we have seen when it comes to a quarterback stepping in and starting from the jump. And that's everybody knows Terrell Pryor from Ohio. When he came out as a freshman, he was number two player ranked nationally, number one QB. One thing I noticed about his stats, through 13 games, 1,300 yards, 60% completion percentage. So he was really literally throwing for like right around 100 yards a game. But then with another element that he added to his game that I think Bryce is going to be able to do as well, is having the 639 rush yards, six TDs. I didn't add this on there, but I think he also caught a touchdown pass. And they ended up having, pretty good success his first year, which isn't surprising given that, he played for Blue Blood, just like how Bryce is going to play for Blue Blood to where I think that I think Bryce stats may mirror this to an extent, especially from rush yard standpoint. But obviously this was almost like 10, 15 years ago at this point. They weren't really a big pat, a lot of,
Real quick, full screen the page.
I don't really know how to.
Just make it a little more clear, I think.
I don't think
No.
I'm not gonna be able to. Yeah, but he's gonna have to
Oh,
kind
no,
of
no,
rock
that's
with
right.
it.
Okay, fair enough. But no, just to interject, in my head, Terrell Pryor, it shows you how efficient you could be if you're a good the team was good because in my head, Terrell Pryor went off his freshman year. Um,
Yeah.
um, so that I like that comparison a lot because in my head, I mean, if you would have told me to guess, I would have said he had 20 touchdowns, 2,000 yards. It shows you just how efficient they can be. Um, because obviously he stepped into a pretty loaded program at that point. Pretty loaded.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one thing I possibly could have added on here, but I think for Bryce, I think this year we're going to end up, really running the ball pretty heavy. Um, Leaning on that to start. Hopefully the O-line is, they're up to speed and, blocking pretty well out the gate. Because I think one thing I noticed with Terrell Pryor's stats, like his first year, they did lean on the run a little bit. He did some things with his legs himself, but as a sophomore, he threw for like 20 touchdowns, and as a junior, he threw for like 27 and 29 touchdowns. So I think with Bryce, that's going to be, I think it's like a good comparison where I feel like Bryce might be, just within that 13 to 15 maybe touchdowns through the air, has some interceptions here and there, but I could definitely see him being a big threat in the running game, a lot of QB power, QB sweep, QB draw plays to where he might be able to rack up 600 yards on the ground and another 6, 7 touchdowns on the ground as well. And just being dynamic in both the pass game and the run game, I think will be good. And I also wanted to share too, because I thought it was kind of interesting. I know this print might be a little bit small, so I'll go through some of the numbers. This Michigan's QB stats in 2024 collectively. Overall, they threw for just under 2,000 yards as a unit. That's Davis Warren, Jack Tuttle, Alex Orji. Threw Diamond Edwards and Smaj Morgan in there as well as they threw some passes themselves. But um, I think overall, it was really the ratio of touchdown interceptions was like was that 8, 11, 12, 11, 13. So yeah, 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions collectively as a group. Completion percentage wasn't all that great either. So you got to imagine the amount of talent, we're bringing back this year, with a QB that is head and shoulder, no offense to those guys. I mean, I think they did what they could do. But he's head and shoulders better than them, as a passer, where he is at his point in his career. Got to imagine if we're able to mirror anything similar to what Terrell Pryor did, or even some of these other guys did as freshmen last year, which is limiting the turnovers overall. That'll speak to nothing as far as nothing for us as far as a potential playoff berth, or even having a better season, maybe going 9-3, 10-2, and I think if we're able to go 10-2, depending on how the schedule turns out, we'll definitely be in prime position to make some noise in the playoffs, or possibly even get a Big Ten championship game berth as well.
No, I agree with you on that. It's no, some of these stats are interesting because you see just how like I think Raiola would be a good example where he probably he started out. I bet you a lot of those touchdowns are front loaded on the season.
Yeah,
Because I feel like I watched a couple of those early games and he was slinging it. And I think you a player like him, um, he gives bare minimum. You can see the flashes of where he will be in the future. That's what scares you as far as if you're forced to play Nebraska in the next couple of years. That guy, a couple of years down the road, he's been through the fire. He has it kind of understood, and he's rolling. So I, I would think Underwood, just based upon some of the little bit of research I did, I think he is um primed to have equally as good a season as any one of these guys you have listed, if not better. I think we have a lot of stuff going for us as far as the talent around us. We're not Nebraska doesn't have the highest degree of talent across that roster.
right.
You have Florida. I'm sure they got some. I mean, it's Florida. They got some skill guys down there, but they're not. Um, they're probably a little more equal to what we would have, if not less, as far as skill positions around. So, all that being said, just look at some of the things I looked up. 50-4 for his high school career stats at Bellevue. I mean, I've never even heard of a guy who played 54 career high school games.
Yeah, that's a
That's
lot.
I mean, in the state of Michigan, where we are all from, we play 9 games regular season a year. So he's averaging 2, 3, 4 playoff games every single year. That's lots of big game experience. That's been through the fire a lot. For his career, 11,488 passing yards, 179 touchdowns, and 13 picks. That literally sounds like a my player stat at the end of your road to glory. So I think he has a lot of football under his belt. He's not a guy who kind of was rushed to, maybe had one good year. I hate to even throw him under there, but let's say like a Shane Morris, where he got to the championship his junior year, and then senior year kind of split out, but still was a top ranked quarterback that year. Didn't obviously come have the best showing here, ended up saving his career a little bit at Central when he transferred. But I look at a guy like this who those amount of games, you've seen a lot, you've been a lot, playing at a high degree. All that gives me hope and promise of just what we can do. And just looking at some of the other guys you mentioned, they uh Terrell Pryor, I mean, he played some of the best football. We hate him. He should have came to us, but he played some of the best high level football I've seen in college football. As far as you hated
Yeah.
playing against him, you hated some of them highlights. Got to the pros even. Still made the noise, switch positions, made a little more noise. So that's
Mhm.
just a real athlete, and I think we have somebody like that under center as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think we're in really like rare territory. I mean, obviously it's probably the best commute we've had. Um, at least like statistically out of high school, rankings wise. I think probably just best overall would probably be I'm blanking on his name right now, of course. Played with Braylon and all them. Chad Henne. I think that's probably like
Henny
the
or Henny, yeah.
yeah, or like going back to him, and then of course JJ,
Mm-hmm.
a couple years back. So, and then even some guy that's kind of like been kind of forgotten about, even having like Jay quarterback like Jaden Davis. So it's just cool to see overall, like Michigan starting to prioritize the QB position more, as of late. Getting some guys in there with a lot of talent, and we were fortunate to, Charles Sharon Moore, not letting him just kind of waltz off to LSU without a fight, and we're able to make some
Yep.
things happen behind the scenes and bring him in. And yeah, I mean, there's not many of them, but we talked about how a lot of guys just throughout the years, like I think Deshaun Watson was an example. I think you said I don't know RG3 might have started as a
Yeah.
true freshman or might have been redshirted or but um,
Yeah,
you know
I can drop a couple of those. So I try to do a little bit of poor man's version of what Grant did here, and I just looked up guys who I thought highly ranked, all 4 or 5 star guys, able to start as a freshman, and just dynamic athletes. And that was RG3 back in, I think it was 2009. I want to say he started.
Mhm.
Or I forgot what the year was exactly, but for some reason that sticks out in my head. But it was 2,100 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks, 800 yards on the ground. As a freshman, Deshaun Watson in 8 games, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks, 200 rushing yards. And I put him in here, even though it's not exactly, but Marcus Mariota, a redshirt freshman, um, has some crazy stats actually. 2,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 picks, 700 on the ground. And those are all, obviously Oregon at that point in time was just they were lighting the scoreboard up. They would win
Yeah.
8, 9, 10 games, light the scoreboard up. But that all
I'll be
gives me
honest, yeah. I
just
didn't
the
know I
stats
didn't know
like that.
RG3
Yeah,
went
or, yeah.
like with even like as a freshman. I mean, those numbers are pretty impressive. 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks, 843 with 13 touchdowns on the ground. I mean, that
Yeah.
senior year was crazy. 4,200 yards in the air, 699 on the ground with 10 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, won the Heisman, of course, too. But yeah, that was
No,
somebody I
I mean
didn't.
he was going
Yeah,
off, and I mean, obviously he is where he is now as far as the things he keeps saying. But in that
yeah,
moment in time, then he was, I remember saying, is he going to go to law school? Is he going to NFL? He can run in the Olympics. Like he had some, he
yeah.
was wow.
Elite
So
athlete.
you just look at those stats there. Deshaun Watson, even, you scrap it like that. That was in 8 games. You increase that to 12, 13 games. I mean, he's up over 2,500 yards, 20
Yeah,
touchdowns. So I think that's kind of the ilk of where we're looking at. And those are all top prospects, 1, 2, 3 in their class as far as position goes. And the last thing I'll say about Bryce Underwood here is I don't want to be hyperbolic when I say this, but he's almost kind of like a redshirt freshman. He
yeah.
I think about that many high school games. Not that you can compare high school games to college, but he's coming in well seasoned with 50 something games under his belt. He's been on campus since December. He took all the QB1 reps since he stepped foot on campus
Mhm.
7 months ago. heading into spring ball that way, heading into summer camp that way, doing it currently. So I think even that, just treating him what he is also help. Not that you just don't give him and not let him work hard, but also, hey, this is yours, so let's act accountable the entire time. I mean, he's going to be on campus 9 months before he takes his first snap. Um,
Yeah,
I think that can't be kind of taken for granted. And then just as far as other guys in the quarterback room, Mikey Keene, Fresno State transfer, he has what 2 or 3 years of starting under his belt. We seen he got a little we won, but he got a little loose for us last year.
yeah,
Uh, Somebody like that, I love just as a backup position, a reliever if case some crazy stuff happens or just whatever that case is. I think that's he would have started for us last year.
for sure,
I think, and on top of that, just having a seasoned guy in there to let the young boy know, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is kind of bouncing ideas off of him. All that is good. Frederick Moore, Samantha Morgan, the Indiana guy, what's his name, Coley, um, Klein at tight end.
yeah,
So we got some playmakers around. We always keep a good O line. I think um, everything around us is equal to what it was last year, minus the quarterback. And I think if that's even 20-30% improved, we're heading in the right direction.
for sure, yeah, yeah. And I think the key would be, I think one thing you even got to give some of these young quarterbacks, especially like guys last year, they were able to. Well, Rayola got a little funky with the ball, interceptions. Well, they both were kind of like that 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, which can be, you just windows don't be as open as they were in high school. When you come to college. But yeah, I think that'd be the key because just setting up Bryce for success, putting them in, not putting them in a lot of 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 situations and leaning on the run and then also, hoping that he makes some good decisions with his legs as well when he needs to make some plays as far as keeping the chains moving. I think that's something that even JJ, was pretty good at. When he first, came onto the scene as a sophomore, just um I think he only threw like one interception, but they really did a good job about obviously we had Blake Corum in the backfield back then, so we really had somebody to lean on. But yeah, I mean I think overall just excited to see what's going to come to be. And then yeah, with that being said, we'll start to kind of slowly wrap things up here. Um, be back with y'all next week, and then the next few weeks we'll come back on here with just do some win-loss predictions for Michigan, do some win-loss predictions for our Detroit Lions as well. And yeah, like I said, before you know it, football season will be around the corner. You got anything
Yeah, I
else,
like the
man?
win losses. I'm spitballing here, maybe a top 3 or 4 players to key players on each side of the ball, something like that. Just try to
Yeah.
if anybody watches like us, I'm sure you're knee deep in watching old highlights and
Hmm.
reading every article you can. I mean, it's football is upon us.
Yeah.
Um, I even drove past a high school the other day. Some kids had some helmets on out there. So I'm like, hey, it's getting started. It's
Yeah.
getting yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder, always like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back with y'all soon.
So
Peace.